Hello, everyone. Good morning. Today is Friday, November the 13th. Oh my gosh, it's Friday the 13th, guys. Hope nothing scary happens today. Okay, so we have a really long lesson for Wit and Wisdom today, so I'm just going to go ahead and get right to it. Make sure you can hear it. Hope you guys had a great day today. Today's Friday, it's the weekend. Okay, here we go.
Welcome back, historians. I'm Sue Sabelli, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today we'll need Plains Indians, buttons from handout 7A, and remember, you might have used different buttons. You might have used real buttons or buttons that you drew yourself and cut out. That's what you need for handout 7A. We'll also need handout 8A, points that support. We'll also need your journal, scissors, and a pencil. So please pause here to gather what you need, and then just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so we have our copy of Plains Indians. You have your journal. You do not need scissors. You do need a pencil. And you're just going to watch Miss Sabella using handout 7A and 8A.
Historians use many sources of information to learn about the past. Today, we'll be using more than one source or more than one type of text to gain information and to build our knowledge. Are you ready? I am. Let's go. We're about to learn some information from a very short video clip. Many of us are used to getting most of our information from books. And when we watch a video, usually we watch it from beginning to end and we just watch it one time. But when we're watching a video to gain information or to build knowledge as an expert on a topic, you are probably going to need to watch that video more than one time. You might even decide to pause it, to stop and think, just like you do when you're reading. Another way video is very similar to a book. If you have a question, or if you're just thinking about something and you want to go back and reread, you turn the page in a book. In a video, there are no pages, but what you can do is something you're very used to doing, scrolling back on the timeline. So you can pause the video, go back, listen and view it again so you can think and so you can question. Videos provide us with information just like books do. We just need to do them or use them a little differently. As you watch this short video clip, I want you to keep this question in mind. Why were the animals important to the Plains Indians? Remember, as you're watching, it's okay to pause so you can think about the information that you're getting. And it's okay to scroll back on the timeline to watch it again, because you could gain even more information that way. And remember, when you pause, you can use that time to think, or you could also use that time to chat with a learning partner and share with your partner what you're learning about why animals were important to the Plains Indians.
Plains Indians got their food by hunting, growing, or gathering. Some tribes grew crops such as maize, beans, and pumpkins. Plains Indians often hunted buffalo and antelope with bows and arrows. Hunting was very important. It provided more than just food for the Plains Indians.
That video is very short and very quick, so please feel free to scroll back to review or re-watch the video before moving on. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Why were the animals important to the Plains Indians? I'd like you to pause here to tell your learning partner, to whisper to me, or to take some notes and jot them down in your journal. We don't want to forget what we just learned about animals and the Plains Indians. So pause here to chat or to jot, and then just hit play when you're ready to continue.
So why do you think the buffalo were so important to the Plains Indians? Why did they need them so much? What do you think? Well, I mean, they use them for food, right? And we know that they use them to make their shelter and to make their tools and to make their clothing. So all seem like really good reasons for them to be super important.
If you have a copy of Plains Indians with you, please pause here to grab your copy and turn to page 20. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Whenever we're reading informational text, we'll run into words that are unknown, words that we may not know what they mean or what the definition is. And there are two different things that we can do to help us learn about the definition. One of those strategies is called outside in. And outside in allows us to use the words around the unknown word to help give us a clue about what that word might mean. The words around the word that's unknown are called context clues. We're using those sentences to help us think about what the word might mean. So let's try one together. The word is fertile. And as I turn to page 20, I'm going to look at the top of the page. As I look at the first paragraph on page 20, I notice that there are some bold words. Fertile is one of the words that's bold. If you have your book available, put your finger on the word fertile. We're going to use the outside in strategy. Outside in means I'm going to look at the words and sentences that are on the outside of fertile. Those words and sentences are going to give us a clue as to what fertile might mean. So when I read the word fertile in the sentence it's in, I'm going to continue to the next sentence too, to see if I can learn more. Here we go. Farming tribes lived on very fertile land along the major rivers of the Great Plains. I'm going to pause there to do some thinking. Lived on very fertile land. So when they're talking about fertile, they're talking about the land. Fertile is used to describe the land. I'm going to keep reading with that in mind. What kind of land is it? Here we go. With plentiful rain and good growing conditions, they could grow more corn and other crops than they needed. I'm going to do some more thinking, and I might even reread as I think. With plentiful rain and good growing conditions, I can picture the land. I can picture the land that has had lots of rain and it has good growing conditions, which means that the land is good for growing. Fertile must mean that the land is good for growing. I can also use the in part of the outside in strategy. And when I look in at the word fertile, it reminds me of the word fertilizer. And lots of people use fertilizer on their crops to help them grow, or on the land to help the crops grow. So when I think of fertile, that also reminds me of fertilizer. And that can also help me figure out what this word might mean. I just use the outside-in strategy to get an idea of what this word might mean. But I also have another tool I can use because this is informational text and it has a glossary. And I know that when the word is bold, it also means that it's in the glossary. So the word is fertile. I'm going to flip to page 44 where the glossary is. And I remember when I'm using a glossary, it's just like a dictionary where the words are in alphabetical order. As I look down the glossary, I can even take my finger and kind of go down. I see words with A, B, C. I see a word with F, F-A, F-E, fertile. Fertile means able to produce plentiful crops. This means that the land is able to grow plenty of crops. That land must be good for growing. It must be fertile. By using the outside-in strategy and the glossary, I have a better understanding of what fertile means. I can actually picture it in my mind. What is happening in this text? Let's take a closer look at the details and the topics to help us learn what's happening in this text. We'll be using buttons and bags to explore this text. Please pause here to gather your buttons or to cut them out from handout 7A, and also grab your journal and your pencil. Once you have your buttons ready and your journal and your pencil, just hit play when you're ready to continue. We're going to be reading pages 14 through 17. So if you have your book handy, you can follow along and read with me if you like. If you do not have your book handy, you can listen and we'll think together.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so that I can do a split screen with you so that you can see the book. No, Miss Isabella, we're not ready. Let's see. Sorry, I should have already had it pulled up on my screen and I didn't. Okay. Gonna make that one smaller. Oh. Okay, bring that one back up. No, that's not what I wanted to do. No, that's not what I wanted to do either. Back over here. Here we go. All right. Make this screen smaller. There we go. I figured it out, guys. All right. So we're going to be looking at the book. While we're listening to Miss Isabella read. Let me make sure that I am actually sharing my screen because that would be bad if I weren't. Okay, here we go.
Here we go. The title of this section is a question, and this question will help guide our thinking as we listen for important details. The question is, what animals did early Plains Indians need? So when I hear that question, I'm going to be listening for what animals the Plains Indians need. Here we go. Plains Indians depended on several different kinds of animals to provide many of their daily needs. The bison was at the center of life for early Plains Indians. I'm gathering my button, and I am definitely going to drop that in. The bison is an animal that the Plains Indians needed. The bison is the largest land animal to roam North America in modern times. Even though an adult weighs as much as about 1 ton or over 2,000 pounds, bison can still run at speeds of around 30 miles per hour. For thousands of years, bison roamed the Great Plains in huge herds. These enormous animals provided most of what Plains people needed to live. Wow, that's an important detail. It's not that it's just bison, but bison gave the Plains Indians most of what they needed. That's important to remember. Plains Indians were experts at hunting bison and at making every use of every part of the animal. The clothes they wore and the cone-shaped tents they lived in, called teepees, were made from bison hides. They sharpened the bones of bison and carved them into tools. They used the horns of bison to make spoons, cups, rattles, and toys. They braided shaggy bison hair into rope. Wow, that helps me to answer the question, what animals did early Plains Indian need? That confirmed bison is one of those animals. Of course, bison were an important source of food, too. That's another detail. Not only did bison give them clothing and tools, bison was also an important source of food. After men hunted the animals, women cut up the bison meat. They preserved some of it for later by cutting it into long strips and hanging it to dry on racks in the hot sun. Once meat was dried this way, it could be stored for long periods without spoiling. The bison was like a walking store, providing food, clothing, tools, and more. Even bison waste was put to use. Plains Indians used it for fuel for their campfires. Before I move on, I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to think about the question, what animals did early Plains Indian need? Bison was definitely one of those animals. I want to capture that detail in my journal. Bison provided food, clothing, and tools. Get your buttons ready because you're going to help me with the rest. There are more animals that Plains Indians need, and you're going to help me figure that out. Here we go. Transportation. Before they acquired horses, early Plains Indians traveled on foot. They relied on dogs to carry heavy loads as they followed bison herds across the plains. They loaded their supplies and belongings onto a kind of sled called a travois. A travois was made of 2 poles tied together in a V shape with strips of rawhide stretched across the V. The travois was attached to the shoulders of a dog, which dragged the load behind itself. Get your button ready and tell me out loud, what other animal did Plains Indians need to help them? Yep, it was a dog. We're going to take that button, and that is definitely another detail we want to remember. We also want to capture this detail. Dogs carried heavy loads on a sled called a travois. Horses. The first modern horses were brought to North America by Spanish explorers in the 1600s. Small early horses had once lived in North America millions of years ago, but they had died by about 9,000 BCE. Plains Indians began to acquire horses through trading with other tribes or by raiding other tribes. By the late 1700s, horses were common among Plains Indians. I bet you've already grabbed another button. What's another animal that Plains Indians needed? Yep, definitely horses. Horses changed the way Plains Indians lived. With horses, Plains Indians could travel farther and faster than ever before. It made their nomadic lifestyle easier, allowing them to move their camps from place to place as they followed the bison. Plains Indians also found that they could track and hunt bison more effectively on horseback. Tribes such as the Crow gave up their farming lifestyle to become nomadic hunters. Horses also made them more effective warriors, able to attack their enemies quickly and suddenly. I'm definitely taking a button for horses, and we're going to drop that in. Horses added so much to the Plains Indians' lifestyle. I also want to capture this detail in my journal. Horses helped Plains Indians move from place to place. Each button is the detail. And when I put those buttons together and I tie them up in the bag, I begin to think about how they're connected. And that helps me think about or generate my topic statement. I left room at the top of my page so I could drop in my topic statement right at the top. My topic statement is Plains Indians needed bison, dogs, and horses. I connected the bison, the dogs, and the horses because those were the animals that the Plains Indians needed. Now it's your turn. Let's read the directions. Read pages 20 to 21 to find the main topic and details. Identify the key details. Determine the main topic of this section. You'll be using your buttons to help you think about the details, and also you'll be jotting those key details down in your journal. Once you have the key details in your journal, you'll tie them up in a bag and you'll identify the topic statement and write the topic statement down in your journal, just like we did in mine. I'm going to read pages 20 to 21 all the way through, but remember, you're in charge. When you need to pause to grab a button or to jot down a detail, you'll just hit the pause button. And once you're done jotting, you can hit play to continue the reading. And again, remember, you have a choice. You can read pages 20 to 21 on your own if you have the text with you, or you can listen as I read it aloud. Remember to pause as often as you need to, and then you just hit play when you're ready to continue. Ready? Here we go. What did early Plains Indians farm? Farming was the main source of food and wealth for those early Plains Indians that lived in villages. Farming tribes lived on very fertile land along the major rivers of the Great Plains. With plentiful rain and good growing conditions, they could grow more corn and other crops than they needed.
Okay, we're going to stop right there for a second. I need to go back with you. So on page 61 of your journal, you are going to just copy what Miss Sabella did with us in the video, okay? You're going to write her topic sentence. Now, if you don't want to write it in green, because that is the topic statement, you can write it in pencil and then underline it in green crayon, okay? We are going to work towards getting rid of writing topic statement on our writing pieces. So either write it in green or underline it in green. And then she wrote 3 facts that she found for her topic statement. So that's what you're going to do on page 61. We're going to do the same thing with pages 20 and 21 in the book on page 62. So you need to go ahead and turn to page 62 right now. You can go back and do page 61. Well, you can do it now. You can pause the video and do it now and then hit play. Or you can go back and do page 61 after the video is over. Okay, so do it now, pause. And then on page 62, we're going to do this together right now. Okay, so go ahead and get page 62 ready. I'm going to rewind those few sentences that she read. And we're going to start that again. Okay, so I'm going to rewind it, share my screen. Okay, let's see.
You'll identify the topic statement and write the topic statement down in your journal, just like we did in mine. I'm going to read pages 20 to 21 all the way through, but remember, you're in charge. When you need to pause to grab a button or to jot down a detail, you'll just hit the pause button. And once you're done jotting, you can hit play to continue the reading. And again, remember, you have a choice. You can read pages 20 to 21 on your own if you have the text with you, or you can listen as I read it aloud. Remember to pause as often as you need to, and then you just hit play when you're ready to continue. Ready? Here we go. What did early Plains Indians farm? Farming was the main source of food and wealth for those early Plains Indians that lived in villages. Farming tribes lived on very fertile land along the major rivers of the Great Plains. With plentiful rain and good growing conditions, they could grow more corn and other crops than they needed. Extra crops could be traded with other tribes for metal tools, cloth, bison hides, and other valuable goods.
Okay, I'm going to pause right there because I just heard several things that were important details. Okay, so I have my button, I have my bag. I just heard Miss Sabella say that the fertile soil made it easy to farm and to grow things. And let's see where it's at on the page. It says farming tribes lived on very fertile land along the major rivers of the Great Plains. With plentiful rain and good growing conditions, they could grow more corn and other crops than they needed. So that tells me that's a good detail, that they have fertile land that made it easy to grow food. Oh, I don't need to close it yet. So on page 62, that's going to be one of our points, our details, that the fertile land made it easy to grow food. So we're going to write that. The fertile land made it easy to grow food. Okay. So I'm going to, there we go. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and write this on page 62. Okay, and I also heard her say another important detail. I'm going to get another button to put in my bag, that the tribes grew extra food. It says it right here. Extra crops could be traded with other tribes for metal tools, cloth, bison hides, and other. I feel like there's a word missing in that sentence. And other. Okay, so that's an important detail. So I'm going to put my button in and I'm going to write on page 62 that the tribes grew extra food and traded it for new things. So tribes grew extra food and traded it for new things. Okay, so you need to write that detail also on page 62. Okay, I'm gonna look. I feel like, and I feel like there's another important detail that we almost missed. Another button. The very first few sentences says farming was the main source of food and wealth for these early Plains Indians. So where did they get most of their food from? From farming. So that's another important detail that I'm going to put a button down in my bag. So these village tribes got most of their food from farming. So we're going to write that on our page 62. Village tribes got most of their food from farming. Okay, so those 3 details should be written on page 62 so far. Go ahead and pause the video and get those written down. And then hit play when you're ready. Okay, so we're going to go back to Miss Sabella. Mouse is acting funny. There we go. Okay.
Farming was mainly the work of women. They planted the fields, tended them, and harvested the crops. Their tools were made from things found in the natural world around them.
Okay.
They used animal bone.
I just heard another important detail, so I'm going to take another button and put it in my bag. Who did most of the farming in these villages? The women did most of the farming. That's what Miss Sabella just read. She read, farming was mainly the work of women. So we need to add that to our chart. Women did most of the farming. Okay. Well, let's keep going and then we can add that detail onto your chart when we get the next one, okay?
Horns, and antlers to make hoes and rakes. Women also made clay pots for storing food. The 3 sisters. Corn, or maize, as American Indians called it, was the most important crop for most tribes. It grew well in many areas, was easily stored, and could be prepared in a variety of ways. It could be used in soups and stews, or it could be dried and pounded into cornmeal. Women used wooden tools called pestles to grind dried corn into meal. Farming tribes almost always planted corn alongside squash and beans.
Okay, so what did we just hear? That is another very important detail. We just heard all the different ways that they would use corn in their food. So we need to add that to our chart, our chart also, that the Plains Indians ate a lot of corn. Plains Indians ate a lot of corn. All right, let's finish this page and then we'll add those last three onto our chart.
Corn stalks provided a pole for bean vines to climb. The leaves of the squash plants helped keep the soil moist. Because the three crops worked so well together, they were often called the Three Sisters. Farming tribes also grew pumpkins, sunflowers, and tobacco. Remember, you can always scroll back to listen again and pause often so you can grab those details with your buttons and for jotting down in your journal. You can pause here to work on pulling your details together, jotting them down, and then writing your topic statement. And just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Okay, so I heard one more detail, one more big detail when it was talking about the bean, the corns, the bean, the corn, and the squash, and how they would all grow together. So they helped each other grow. So that is another very important detail about how they farmed, the early Plains Indians farmed. So we need to add that to our chart, that the corn, squash, and beans helped each other grow. Helped each other grow. All right, so go ahead and pause your video. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a few seconds. So you're going to go ahead and make sure you have all 6 of these details on your page 62, okay? These are the last 3 that we did. So go ahead and pause, get all of those on, and then hit play again when you're ready to go. So now we need to think about, what does all of this talk about? What is the main topic of these 6 details? What is it all talking about? Oh, I just wrote it in. What's wrong with me? They're all talking about farming and how the early Plains Indians farmed and how they did it and what was important to them. So farming, I mean, that could be our topic statement right there, that farming was important to the Plains Indians. Was it important to all of them though? We need to be specific. Or was it just to some of them? So that, I mean, guys, that could be our topic statement. Farming was important to some Plains Indians, not all of them, because remember, the Western Plains Indians were not able to farm because they were nomadic. So I think let's just make that our topic statement. So farm was important to some Plains Indians, and that is our topic statement. So what I want you to do after you write it is get a green pencil or crayon, and I want you to just underline it to show that this is our topic statement. Okay, you can go ahead and pause the video, get your topic statement written and underlined in green, and then hit push. What is wrong with me? Push play so that we can finish our video lesson. I'm going to reshare my screen one more time. This should be the end. We're getting really close. And then I'm going to do this full screen again.
You've been working so hard. It's a great time for a stretch break. Pause here to take a break. And then when you get back, just hit play so you're ready to continue. Details are so important to clue into as a reader. And those details that we include in our writing become points to support our topic statement. We have to be very choosy about the details that we choose to include in our writing. And that goes along with our question here. How does choosing points work? You're going to have a chance to show your teacher that you understand how to choose points that best support the topic statement. We're going to be using handout 8A. If you have a paper copy of this handout, you can go ahead and cut out the strips using your scissors right on the dotted lines. If you do not have a paper copy, that is perfectly fine. You can look along on my copy on the screen as you work to choose the most important points. If you'll be using the copy on the screen, be sure to grab your journal and pencil because you can jot down the most important points in your journal so you'll be able to share that information with your classroom teacher. Pause here to either grab your paper handout or your journal and your pencil.
Okay, guys, we do not have the paper handout, and I do not want you writing in your journal about this, okay? What I want you to do is just watch Miss Sabella very carefully, listen to her instructions, and then we will work on this at a different time, okay? So we're just watching intently.
Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Let's review the directions on handout 8A, the topic statement, and also the possible points. The directions say, sort the points into evidence that supports the topic statement and evidence that does not. The topic statement is, farming provided food and wealth from Eastern Plains Indians. Here are the possible points. Plains Indians ate a lot of corn. Beans climbed up corn stalks like a pole. Village tribes got most of their food from farming. The fertile land helped food grow. Plains Indians made farming tools from animals. Tribes grew extra food and traded it for new things. If you have a paper copy cut into strips, you can choose the points that best support the topic statement and put them into one pile. The points that do not support the topic statement would go into another pile. If you're using handout 8A on the screen, you'll choose your possible points and jot them down into your journal so you can share those points with your classroom teacher.
Remember, we're not doing.
Pause here to work, and please take your time. Just hit play when you're ready to continue.
Remember, we are not copying any of this down into your journal. We're just going to watch Miss Sabella and listen very intently and carefully.
You've learned so much about the people that lived on the Great Plains. Share that knowledge with others, and I will.
Okay, let's go back. So if the topic statement is farming provided food and wealth from Eastern Plains Indians. So the points need to support that. So Plains Indians ate a lot of corn. Does that support the fact that farming provided food and wealth? Well, if they didn't farm, then would they be able to eat a lot of corn? No, they would not. That one is definitely one that supports the topic. Beans climb up corn stalks like a pole. Does that answer anything about farming, how it provided food and wealth? Not really. I mean, it talks about farming, but it doesn't really say anything about how it helped them. It just gave us information on how the beans grow. Village tribes got most of their food from farming. Does that tell us how farming provided food? Definitely, because it says they got most of their food from farming. The fertile land helped food grow. So does that tell us how farming provided food and wealth for them? Well, this one kind of does, because without the land being fertile, the food wouldn't grow as well. If it didn't grow as well, they wouldn't have as much food to eat. If they didn't have extra food to trade for other things, they wouldn't be able to get things that they couldn't grow or find themselves. Plains Indians made farming tools from animals. Does that really tell us about farming providing food and or does it just give us information about how they farmed? That kind of just gives us information about how they farmed. And then the last one, tribes grew extra food and traded it for new things. Does that tell how farming provided food or wealth? Well, it definitely tells how it provided wealth because they were able to take that extra food to trade for things that they did not have. Maybe they could trade for baskets or for jewelry or for other clothing or new tools. So that statement, that point, also tells how farming provided food and wealth for the Eastern Plains Indians. Okay, so let's finish up. Here we go.
I'll see you again very soon.
We missed what you said.
Very soon. You've learned so much about the people that lived on the Great Plains. Share that knowledge with others, and I will see you again very soon.
Okay, so that was a super long lesson today, and you guys did a great job. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for making sure you got everything completed. Make sure that you hush, video, hush. Hold on one second. Okay, make sure that you get pages 61 and 62 finished. The pictures are going to be on your Google Classroom so that you can copy them down, okay? That's all that you have to do for. Make sure that you're working on your vocabulary. Make sure you're working on your fluency homework, okay? And I'll see you guys later. Bye.